Well, it's it's one of those days with COVID-19, and it's NTI, non-traditional instruction days. And so um, one of the things I want to do is I want to create a lesson today that I really am going to miss teaching to my kids this year. I've taught this lesson probably every year since 1996, I guess it would be, when I started at County Middle. So it's one of my favorites. It's about the Kentucky Derby. Um, the Derby is supposed to be this Saturday, May 2nd, 2020, but with the virus and everything, the Kentucky Derby has been postponed until September, I believe. So we're missing out on the excitement of Derby week this week. I can't imagine what you Louisville people are thinking, because Derby week, that ramp up is just incredible. But I love the Kentucky Derby. My grandmother loved horse racing, and she introduced me to the Derby. I mean, my mom did too. We always watched the Derby growing up because my mom is from Kentucky. But I never really had this love of it until grandmother took me to the Derby one year. And then I went to the Derby with some friends, and we went to the infield, and that's a whole nother experience. Goodness gracious, a whole nother experience. But when I fell in love with horse racing. And then in college, I had some friends, Mike and Bill, who took me to the track, taught me how to read the racing form. Grandmother had showed me how to do it, but Bill and Mike really showed me how to do it. And I felt like for a while there, I was pretty okay about reading a racing form, but I fell in love with horse racing, and I love the Kentucky Derby. Got my UK on today. Yeah, go Cats. There you go. Of course, I got my Red Sox, and I got my soft kitty, and I got Vegas and the Red Sox. But anyway, I love the Derby. And so I enjoy teaching this lesson because it's amazing how many kids who live in Kentucky, the home of the Kentucky Derby, don't know anything about the Derby. In fact, a lot of kids will say, "What is that? It's supposed to be when?" So I usually teach this on the Friday before the Derby, so that they've got a chance to kind of get some history, get some information about it. And then on Saturday, they can watch the Derby. They can see the Riders Up call, and they can watch, the parade to the paddock, and then the post parade, and they can watch them load the horses into the gates, and they can hear, "And they're off at the Kentucky Derby," and they'll charge down there, the track, and they'll run through the backstretch, and they'll run past the stands, and here they come down the stretch at the Kentucky Derby, and they get to see the rose blanket that goes on the winning horse. But I like to kind of give them some of that information so that when they get to that time at 5 o'clock on Saturday, I'm like, "Oh, hey, I might try to watch that." They've got some information, they've got some background, and they can kind of enjoy it, hopefully, and then maybe pass it on. Had a student in class one year that I had this little, thing that you do. And I said, "When were you born?" And then I said, "What's one interesting thing about yourself that, people don't know and might think is interesting?" Well, she said she was born May 6th, and she was born on Kentucky Derby Day. Well, my grandson was born on May 6th, 2011. Almost forgot. And on Friday, May 6th, when he was born, by Saturday, May 7th, the Kentucky Derby came around, and he watched his first Kentucky Derby with Papa in the waiting room of the labor and delivery floor, wherever they have all the mamas after their babies are born. And he was 18 maybe hours old, and we watched Riders Up, and we watched the post parade, and we watched the whole thing. And the charge nurse, who's a friend of mine, said, "He won't remember this." And I said, "It doesn't matter. This is the start of a tradition." And so Hayden and I have watched the Kentucky Derby together every year. Sometimes it's difficult to get a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old to settle down for 4 minutes, 10 minutes to watch it. But I want him to have that appreciation of Kentucky history, of the Kentucky Derby, of the lineage of our family, in love with the Derby. So I want to pass some of that stuff along to you all today. Sorry, I'm touching my face, but I'm here by myself, and I have used my hand sanitizer, and you can see I've used it quite well. And if that runs out, I got more. So anyway, I'm going to try to share my screen with you. And I say try, and I will do that. I just have to figure out exactly how this is all going to work. So let's start off with this. First of all, the Kentucky Derby is run every year on the first Saturday in May. Now, that could be May 1st, and it could be May 7th, just depending on that window where the Saturday falls. It is held in Louisville at Churchill Downs. There are many different ways to watch the Derby. You can watch it from a box, very expensive, with all the fanciness and the hats, and I'll show you some of those in a minute. You can also watch it from the track side, which is more of the regular person's kind of place to watch it. Yeah, there are some very expensive areas down there. That's where most of us would just kind of hang out near the track and watch the race. And then you can watch from the infield. That, my friends, is Party Central. But I digress. So the Derby is run every year on the first Saturday in May. The whole world turns their head to Louisville and watches the Kentucky Derby. You'll see fashion. You'll see media superstars. You'll see, athletes and actresses and actors and everybody that, from around the world comes in, and they watch the Derby. And, it's called the most exciting 2 minutes in sports, 2 minutes and 3 seconds, somewhere in that general area. But anyway, so this is an incredible event for the state of Kentucky. It's an incredible event if you ever get a chance to go. I've been twice, and I expect to go several times more as I get older, and don't have to come back to work on that Monday, So, but I want to start showing you my screen, and let's see, how do I get rid of that? There we go. So I want to show you a couple of things here. I want to show you my cute little PowerPoint that I've made, and I've used this for years, and I've updated it a little bit, but this is the lesson. So this is, yes, you can see it's from the 2012 edition of the Derby. That would be Hayden's second Derby, actually, because he was born for the 2011 Derby 137. But here is Churchill Downs, and you can see the twin spires. It's part of the logo. There's the twin spires, and that's just a landmark that you see all over Louisville. You see them making the turn past the grandstands here. You can see from the starting gate camera, you can see how they're kind of bunched up from the different the different gates that they came out of. And you see the jockey, he's tucked in tight there, and he's asking the horse to run a little bit, and see him tucked right in there behind the ears. Jockeys are not big fellas. In fact, they're small fellas, but that makes the horse lighter and they can run better. And then this is not what I meant to do. Students are going, he still can't run this stuff. This down here are some of the hats. The hats that are worn. The fashion of the Derby is just, that's what half the Derby is about. You can see this one here. The hat has some horses running around the track, and it's called the Run for the Roses. Kroger creates the rose blanket every year that is presented to Churchill Downs for the Kentucky winner of the Kentucky Derby. So here are some of the traditional things that you would see, some of the icons, you could call it. Here's the Churchill Downs logo, and here's the Kentucky Derby's logo. And then this one here is Derby 145. That was from last year's Derby. That's just the like the banner that they would have out. This is one of the pins that was created for this year's Derby, Derby 146, which has been postponed until September, I believe. And then you've got this huge wreath of roses. This is a mint julep cup, and here's some more mint julep cups. Mint julep is the drink of the Derby. Bourbon, sugar, ice, maybe some soda, like a Sprite or something, and then of course some mint. And I know it's the Derby drink. Don't tell my Louisville friends, but I think they're disgusting. But I did purchase a mint julep when I was at the Derby 25 years ago. I bought it because I wanted the cup. And then here are the Derby glasses. Just an example of this year's Derby glass. My grandmother had quite the collection of them, and I now have her collection, and I try to add to my collection as I go. And down here at the bottom, you can see this is from American Pharoah. American Pharoah won the Triple Crown, which is winning all three major horse races in one year, the Kentucky Derby, and then the Preakness Stakes, which runs out of Maryland, and the Belmont Stakes is the third leg of the Triple Crown, and hadn't been done until 1979, and then all of a sudden, in the mid 2000s, American Pharoah wins it. So it's a huge day of racing, and then there's of course the blanket of roses, fashion. I'm just gonna say, ladies, you look beautiful. Guys, it's amazing what we'll wear for our beautiful ladies. Ladies, beautiful. Guys, let's just say you better have a beautiful woman that asks you to wear that, because otherwise your friend's going to be like, dude, for reals? Then you get some of the celebrities that come in for the Derby, and then you get these dapper gentlemen down here. I love the walking sticks, and I love the hats and the top hat, but the Derby is traditionally a very festive day, and the Oaks is on Friday before the Derby on Saturday. And it is just, again, it's about the fashion. Here's a fellow who's got his Derby cup in his hair, or in his hat, I'm sorry. And then you've got her, she's got her headdress. This is interesting. She got a little iPad up on her hat to kind of keep track of her bets. She's got the twin spires, and she's got the Churchill Downs look, and then she's got the rider. Yeah. Yeah. You got down here, all in on the Derby. And then this picture here is some friends of mine, Marcia and Philip Garnett and Marianne and their families. So it's just a beautiful event. These are called silks. The jockeys wear silks. They're kind of like the uniforms. And you see they've got various distinctive patterns and colors, and the contrasting colors. And the caps match the jerseys, the silks, which would match some of the barns and the companies and the trainers and the owners of the horses. And a jockey may ride 4 or 5 mounts on a day. The Kentucky Derby is race number 9, maybe out of 13 on the first Saturday in May. So these jockeys, there's one race of the day that the whole world will turn and watch. But it's not just one race of the day at Churchill Downs. So some of these jockeys may ride 2 or 3 or 4 horses in a day. So they're going to change their silks and their caps to match the horse and the stable it comes from. The Derby draw, I believe, is on Tuesday of Derby week, and they put all the silks up and they put them on the wall there, and then they're going to draw just a blind random draw of which horses get the starting position. Now, you'd think you want to be in position 1 because you're not on the rail, and you never want to be out here in 20 because you're so far from the rail. You know, that's the longest trip around the track. Well, this track right here is the shortest, but you can also get caught up in the traffic with all of these people because everybody's trying to get to where you 2-3 are. So your starting position is very important. Some of these people out here get caught up in the traffic. Some of these people out here have to catch up because they're coming from the outside. But that's just part of the allure of the Derby is, you may have the fastest horse right here, but they can't get through the traffic in the front. Or maybe this one gets out fast, but burns all his energy early. This one out here is slow and steady, but doesn't have enough kick at the end because he had to catch up. Somebody in here gets bumped or gets blocked or something. So the starting draw is a really important part of the Derby. This is Churchill Downs, about 1932 maybe. It's in Louisville, and you see it's a populated area, but it's not the densely populated metro area that Louisville is today. But you see Churchill Downs is right in the middle of town. It was originally built kind of on the edge of town. And then as population grew and as time grew and this need for more space grew, Louisville grew outward like everybody else does. Every city grows from a central part and they move out as time goes and the need for space grows. Well, there's Louisville, Churchill Downs in 1932. And there's a blurry Churchill Downs today. Same track, same neighborhoods, but these are all the barns on the back side of the track. The parking lot for the gift shop that's up here in the Kentucky Derby Museum is up here. And this is just the neighborhoods. U of L, I believe, the University of Louisville is kind of up this way. The airport is just here to the bottom of the screen. It's just across about 2 miles or so, maybe 3 miles from Churchill Downs. But you can actually hang a left coming off of here, somewhere in there. And there's an Arby's down in here that I remember several times going to Churchill Downs, and we would stop at because we could still kind of get a view of Churchill and the Twin Spires. But you can see it's in the middle of Louisville. It's in the middle of the city. So here again, another good overview. I think it might be the same picture, just not quite as blurry. And then, yes, there's actually a heliport. There's actually a place to land a helicopter in the middle of the racetrack. Probably not going to do it during the race, but the Derby Museum is here. And then you've got the dirt track, which is 5,280 feet. By the way, that means it's how long? 1 mile. You're right. Good job. So we're actually going to start the race, and we're going to actually go past the start finish line. We'll start back here. I hate when that happens. Start back here, then you go past, and then you go all the way around, and you come down the far turn, and then you make your way back to the finish line. Here is the starting gates. They're pulled onto the track by a tractor, and then they will get loaded here where it says shoot. Oh man, it's driving me nuts. I'm hoping you can see that at the bottom as it comes up and covers up what I'm looking at, because otherwise I feel dumb complaining about it. But they'll load it down there where it says shoot, and then they will actually, as the race starts, they'll pull those gates off. They'll just drive them away and kind of park them on the side. And then this out here is the front of Churchill Downs and the gift shop and the entrance to the Kentucky Derby Museum. And this is a statue of Barbaro. Barbaro was an amazing horse that showed great promise, just blew away the competition at the Derby, and was kind of predicted to be a Triple Crown winner that year until he broke his leg during the Preakness. Probably 25 seconds into the race, took a bad step and broke his rear right leg. And great jockey work. Eddie pulled him up so that he would continue to run and try to run on that broken leg. And eventually Barbaro had to be euthanized. He just couldn't recover from that injury. But he is immortalized there out front of the Kentucky Derby Museum. If you ever get a chance, you need to go. I can't believe I lived in Kentucky for almost 30 years before I walked through the doors to the Derby Museum. There you see the gates out on the track, and you see them as they're loading them in. Imagine being these guys right here. They're trying to push that horse into the gate, and horses can kick back and they're not real thrilled about going in there right now, probably. And so then you're pushing them on their backside and they just want to give you a thump. You see these nice, pretty green vests that these guys are wearing? Those are kind of like flak jackets. They are padding in case you do get kicked. And then you're going to see the mud down in there. You got to hop up in there and get that horse to load into that stall. And then you're going to be there with a, 1,500-pound animal who's getting ready to take off and run. And you're standing with muddy, slick boots on the side of a rail. Just don't fall. It would be bad. And then these gates will slam open and the doors will open and the horses will come out and here we go. This is called the tote board. And the tote board, you see right here, you've got the video of the race going on because you can't always see from wherever you are on the track, depending on where you're sitting. If you're watching it from home, you can see the whole track at the same time. But if you're down in the infield, you get to see about 11 seconds of the race. If you're sitting up in the bleachers, you can probably see more, but this is going to show you the whole race. And then you see you've got this is race 10 of the day. They've got a win, place, and show bet. You can bet it to win, to place second, which is placing, or you can bet it to come in third to show. And if you bet like me, I bet my $2 to show. If the horse wins, comes in second or third, I get to cash a check. However, I get to cash a small ticket. If I bet it to win, I only have one shot. They win, I win good money. If they come in second, they didn't win, so you don't get paid. I love to be at the track. I'm not a big bettor. You'll probably never hear me say, oh my God, I won 50 grand. If I won 50 grand, it's probably a 50 grand candy bar that I won by betting somebody. But you see all the totals for how much money is going into each race. And then the odds that are going up. Oh man. The Derby is running pretty much any condition. It could be raining. It's a sloppy track. It could be pouring rain and it's just gross mud. It could be hot. It's a fast track, or it's a dry track, or it's a fair track. But you see the different levels of track conditions. This one here is a good track, but you see a lot of the dust. Doesn't really give the horses a whole lot of extra area to dig in and run. This is more of a better track. It's not wet by any means, but a little moisture helps them run. They can run in the slop and they can run in the mud. And sometimes the horse, how they run in different conditions depends on whether or not they don't mind getting dirty. If they don't mind to get dirty, they might run a little bit slower in the mud and let somebody else take the pace. And then they'll shoot out at the end with the extra energy they have left. Some of them don't like to get their faces dirty. And once they get their faces and their bellies dirty, they run slower. That's just like all of us. Some of us don't want to be dirty. So horses are no different. And that affects their performance. And yes, they are athletes. These horses are athletes. They are massively muscled. They're well-trained, just like any other athlete. My grandmother showed me how to read a racing form years and years and years ago. But my friends Bill and Mike taught me to read a racing. And at one point, I really thought I was kind of getting good at it. I thought I was getting good at it, and what happens when you forget to plug it in before you start. Bill and Mike showed me how to do it, and I could actually kind of read through and get all this stuff. This horse is Traveling Man. The owner is Paul Robson Stables. You've got the sire, his daddy's name was Trippy, and his mama's name was West Side Dancer. And you can see the different, there's the jockey. Velasquez is going to be the jockey that day. April 30th, 2011. And I believe that means it's a $3,000. I don't remember what all that means. I'm sorry, Bill. Forgive me. It's a 7 furlong race. It's a fast track. He ran the race 23 seconds for the first quarter, 46 and 2 for the second quarter, 1 minute 10 seconds through the third quarter of the race, and then the last quarter of the race he finished at 1:21 and 4. And kind of gives you some of the background, some of the history. It's like looking at somebody's batter's card or batting statistics or their baseball card, or it's a scouting report basically. And you can kind of use it to do your bets. And I remember we're still talking about horses and humans and animals and everybody running together. And like I said, it could be hot, it could be cold, it could be muddy, it could be sloppy, it could be fast, it could be windy. Something could spook them as they run. We all kind of get distracted. And so these horses are no different. Just because they wear blinders, they don't necessarily not pick up on things. So, but the racing form here will kind of give you an idea of the scouting report. This is on the tote board. The day of the track that day was fast. It was 2:36. Post time, that's how much time is left until the race is run. There's no time left, so this race is probably already finished, or it's getting ready to start, excuse me. The horse number 1 is going off at 5-2 odds, 6-1, 10-1, 3-1, 5-1. And so the race was run. Number 6 ran at 12-1, came in first. Number 1 was the leading, was the favorite at 5-2, and then number 9 was 2-1. So if you are me and you bet $2 to show on number 6, I just cashed a ticket for $7.60. I bet $2 to show on number 1, I made $2.60. And I bet $2 to show on number 9, I made $2.80. Now, if you bet across the board, it means you're taking the win, place, and show. I made a $6 bet on horse number 6, and I made 27, and 11 is 38, and 7 would be 45. I made $45.80 on a $6 bet. And then you can see down here, Miss Dutch, ridden by Roger Cullifer, Miss Gator, Mike Peterson, tells you the jockeys, and then the exacta, you're betting the first and second place winner. The trifecta, you're betting on first, second, third. Superfecta, man, I wish Bill was here right now. Superfecta, I believe, is you're picking the first 6 horses in that race. And if you pick all 6 in order, it's pretty good chunk of change. But there are a lot of different things you can bet. Here's another example of the tote board, same tote board. That's what it kind of looks like as you're riding past the grandstands at the Churchill Downs track. There's that huge horseshoe ring of flowers at the Derby, but then there is the blanket of roses that goes over the winning horse. This is Victory Circle, and the winning horse gets in there and takes the pictures, and they do the interviews. I don't think the horse necessarily speaks a lot, but he's got a lot of nay to say. He's want to get back to the barn and get some oats. So there's your bed of roses. This is the military company that brings the blanket of roses in, and they carry the trophy for the Derby. And then 2 different logos for the Derby. Of course, it's called the Run for the Roses because of the rose blanket. Now, here's where it gets fun. These are some of the traditions of the track. You've got My Old Kentucky Home. It's played by usually U of L or UK's bands, sung by UK or U of L's choirs, or sometimes a group together. And then, of course, you get the national anthem, who's usually sung by somebody famous. This is called the Post Parade, and we'll look at that in a second here. But these are some of the traditions of the Derby. I want to show you this video of the Post Parade. This is from Derby 138. So it's been close to 10 years now. But the first thing they're going to do is called Riders Up. And Riders Up is kind of like, ladies and gentlemen, start your engines at the Indianapolis 500 or the NASCAR race. So
Perry for the Riders Up call for the 138th consecutive running of the Kentucky Derby.
Riders Up! Finally got it out, Riders Up. So there's a look at Daddy Longlegs. Colin O'Donoghue, the Irish rider, has come across to ride this internationally traveled horse. And he'll be the first one to get a leg up. And they'll begin their walk in the walking ring circle and then head to the racetrack. There is the veteran John Cord on Optimizer.
Tom, when I was in the jocks room today, I noticed there was a sense of quietness, relaxed jockeys in there today. Normally there's a lot of riders that are nervous. We've got 4 riders that have never ridden in the Kentucky Derby today. They even seemed relaxed.
What about you? Being a veteran, did you still get the butterflies?
You know, I had this feeling I would be lying if I said I didn't get nervous, but once I got legged up on the horse's back, after this moment right here, it just became peaceful, and I knew that I was the one in charge at that point. It's actually a very relaxing feeling when you finally do get legged up.
Staff and horsemen of Churchill Downs proudly present the 138th running of the Kentucky Derby, presented by Yum Brands. Please rise as the University of Louisville Marching Band plays My Old Kentucky Home.
And the cheers of the record crowd of over 165,000 with the playing of My Old Kentucky Home. And there is Daddy Longlegs, number 1, the international traveler, bred in Kentucky, but a winner in Ireland is based, England, and Dubai, where he took the UAE Derby at 1 mile and 3/16. His only race on dirt, a 12th here in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. His trainer, Aidan O'Brien, won the English 2,000 guineas earlier today. Number 2 is Optimizer, trained by 4-time Derby winner Wayne Lucas, but he has only 1 career win this colt, and that was on the turf at Saratoga last year. Owner Brad Kelly just paid $36 million to buy historic Calumet Farm. Number 3 is Take Charge Indy. Calvin Burrell seeks his 4th Derby victory aboard the Florida Derby winner. Owner Maribeth Sanford is a Louisville native now living in suburban Chicago. She developed Bag Makers Incorporated, one of the largest makers of reusable grocery bags in the country. The 4 horses, Union Rags. Michael Matz has followed the same formula he used to win the Derby with Barbaro. This colt has been sometimes brilliant, sometimes erratic, with a propensity for trouble, compromised by a poor ride when 3rd in the Florida Derby. Dullahan is the 5, named for a creature headless in Irish fairy tales. Jerry Crawford of Des Moines, whose roots are in Ireland, heads the Donegal Racing Partnership for this Bluegrass Stakes winner who is 0 for 3 on dirt. His half-brother, Mind That Bird, won the 2009 Kentucky Derby. The 6 is Bodemeister, only 4 career starts and none last year. The last Derby winner to have not raced a 2, Apollo, in 1882. Yet he was brilliant for Bob Baffert and Mike Smith with a nearly 10-length victory in the Arkansas Derby. He'll face some early pace pressure today. 7 is Rousing Sermon, a late-running California-bred colt trained by Hall of Famer Jerry Hollendorfer in search of his first Derby victory. This horse was 3rd in the Louisiana Derby. Number 8 is Creative Cause, who gives 71-year-old veterinarian-turned-trainer Mike Harrington and 80-year-old owner Heinz Steinman their first trip to the Derby. Steinman, a native of Switzerland, a champion skier at UCLA, and now a ski resort owner with 11 children and 31 grandchildren. His colt won the San Felipe, then beaten the nose on the Santa Anita Derby. The 9 horse is Triniberg, owned by Shavanda Parbu from Trinidad, who bought the colt on a whim while making a delivery at the Ocala Breeders' sale of 2-year-olds. Trained by his dad, Biznath, and Triniberg has brilliant speed. He's never been beyond 7 furlongs. Watch out when he starts to back up. Number 10 is Daddy Knows Best, one of 2 trained by Steve Asmussen, who is 0 for 10 at the Derby, owned by Texans Kathy and Bob Zollers. This horse has won 2 in a row, but against lesser competition. The 11 is Alpha. Sheikh Mohammed, the ruler of Dubai, has been trying to win the Derby since 1999. His best finish 6th. This horse has sometimes been fractious at the gate, but was perfectly behaved in the Wood Memorial, where he checked sharply in the first turn, still finished 2nd by a neck to Gemologist. The 12 is Perspective. Both jockey Luis Contreras, trainer Mark Cassey, Sovereign Award winners as Canadian champions, and owner Jack Oxley tasted Derby magic with Monarchos in 2001. This colt winner of the Tampa Bay Derby, then 6th in the Bluegrass. 13 Went the Day Well, the same owner, trainer, jockey that scored with Animal Kingdom in the Derby last year, and the same prep race win too, the Spiral Stakes at Turfway. This horse began his career in England and is named for a British World War II movie. 14 is Henson. He's been on his toes since coming over from the stable area. Champion 2-year-old last year. Won a key race, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, here at Churchill Downs, trying to temper his speed as he did in winning the Gotham. Then he reverted with a 2nd in the Bluegrass. Gemologist is the 15, 5 for 5 in his career. 2 of those wins here at Churchill Downs. Never seriously challenged until the Wood Memorial, where he fought off Alpha. This is the same owner-trainer combination, Winstar and Pletcher, that won the Derby with Super Saver. The Santa Anita Derby winner gave jockey Mario Gutierrez his biggest win. Until earlier this year, he'd been based at Hastings Park in Vancouver. And number 20 is Liaison, the 2nd Bob Baffert and a quarter with a purse of $2 million, and the jockeys are getting ready too. Mike Smith is on Bodemeister, getting some play now at 6-1. Julian Leperoux aboard the favorite, Union Rags. Get DeSormo rides Dullahan. 9-2, Bodemeister now 5-1.
Here is the board right now: 24-1, Daddy Longlegs. That's the odds. 55-1, 53-1. These things will change minute to minute before the race begins. Once the race begins, those are locked. So you bet Perspective, let's say at 55-1, you're looking at, you could possibly win $110 if he wins. But if not, there's a long shot. That's why he's 55-1. That's why Union Rags is 9-2. That 4.5-1. There's Bodemeister at 5-1. That just means they've got a better scouting report. That's kind of like they're the elite athlete.
1, so very close. Hanson 14-1, Gemologist 8-1 as they continue to load into the starting gate. 20 horses, which means an auxiliary starting gate. And Michael Matz, who won the Derby in 2006 with Barbaro, watches his colt Union Rags being led into the gate. The owner, Phyllis Wyeth, who had the dream, had to have the horse back. She paid nearly 3 times what she sold him for initially to get him back. Bob Baffert, we talked about what his thoughts might be. He has 2 horses, Liaison on the outside and Bodemeister, named for his 7-year-old son. Dr. Kendall Hansen, the owner of Hansen, the white horse. As they load into the gate, Larry Colvis with the call.
All in line and ready for the start. They're off in the Kentucky Derby. And as As expected, Triniberg had a great start. Gemologist is also out quickly. Hansen is in between horses, and Bodemeister is down on the inside. And now Bodemeister's ahead of Triniberg. Bodemeister and Triniberg will lead that charge to the first turn at Churchill Downs. Daddy Longlegs, Hansen. Oh, Hansen's hard to control early. Gemologist is fifth on the outside. I'll have another is next. And Captain Burrell is right on the rail with Take Charge Indy as they move into the turn. And then it's Daddy Knows Best on the far outside liaison. Creative Cause, Optimizer along the rail. Between those two is Dullahan. And then it's Alpha, followed by Saber Cat. Rousing Sermon to the inside. Perspective went the day well. Union Rags is third last early. He is 18th onto the backstretch ahead of Done Talking and the trailer El Padrino. 45 and 1. Oh, they're flying up the backstretch. And Bodemeister's in front. He's on front by a length and a half. Triniberg on the outside is second by another 2 lengths. Hansen is in third. Take Charge Indy gets that rail trip in fourth as they head for the turn. He's 5 lengths off the lead. Gemologist is next. Then I'll have another. Liaison is on the outside. Union Rags is down at the rail. He's in traffic. Union Rags in a lot of trouble on the far turn. He's boxed in. Bodemeister on the lead as they round the far turn. Triniberg is second. Hansen is third. I'll have another. Creative Cause moves up on the far outside. But it's Bodemeister at the top of the stretch. And Bodemeister's got a 5-length lead. I'll have another on the outside. Now has moved into second. And then down toward the outside, Creative Cause. Bodemeister holding on to the lead. I'll have another. On the outside is closing in. I'll have another color. Bodemeister. Dullahan on the far outside. Here's the wire. I'll have another. Has won the Kentucky Derby. And then it was Bodemeister, Dullahan, and went the day well.
Wow, I'll have another. Doug O'Neill accepting the hugs all around. Owned by J. Paul Redham, who is a staunch supporter of thoroughbred racing. This is a horse that won the Santa Anita Derby by a nose after not racing from February 4th when he won the Robert Lewis as a 40-to-1 shot. Wins the Kentucky Derby. Wow.
I've been asked all week long.
Not an easy spot for this horse because he has enough.
I don't know what to say. Thanks to Mr. Redham for the first time he saw me in Santa Anita and gave me the opportunity to ride this horse. It's an amazing horse. So thanks to him, Doug O'Neill, all his connections, the grooms, everything. Everybody do such a great job with him. My family in Mexico, I know.
Made that guy's career. So the thing about the Derby that I love is some of the traditions and some of the people who've been involved with the Derby over the years. One of my favorites is
his third last, Cause to Believe
was
his fourth last
on TV,
and Jazzle is 20 years. Flashy Bull on the outside.
This is Barbaro's last race. Barbaro was an incredible horse, and Barbaro's going to win this race. So whoever's betting right now, don't bet against Barbaro. He's going to win. Trust me on this one. I wouldn't lie to you. Well, not on this. But I want you to listen to Dave Johnson. And the thing about Dave Johnson is his call down the stretch. And down the stretch they come at the Kentucky Derby. Nobody else does it like Dave.
And it appears that Flashy Bull is in line, and they're off in the Kentucky Derby. And toward the inside, Sinister Minister, as expected, quickly jumps to the front. And Sharp Humor on the outside into second position. And Keyed Entry is keyed up, racing in third. Showing up as fourth. Barbaro between horses fifth. Bluegrass Cat sixth. Lawyer Ron seventh. Seaside Retreat is eighth. On the outside, Brother Derek is caught wide in ninth position. And Point Determined has a fine spot along the inside rail. Then comes AP Warrior, who's about 13th at this point. Bob and John between horses. Sweet Northern Saint. Deputy Glitters is next. On the outside, Flashy Bull. Along the inside, there goes Steppenwolfer, who's moving up, along with the Steve Asmussen trained Private Vow. And the other Asmussen horse, Storm Treasure, is third last. Cause to Believe is fourth last. And Jazzle is 20th and last as they move down the backstretch. The half was in 46 seconds. And they continue down the backstretch, and it is keyed entry in front by a length and a quarter with Pat Valenzuela aboard. Sinister Minister on the outside is second. And showing up is racing third. Barbaro starts his move in the middle of the racetrack. Sweet Northern Saint saves some ground on the inside, but looks for racing room. Bluegrass Cat is also moving up. Along the inside, Point Determined looks for racing room. They move to the top of the stretch. Sinister Minister now takes command. It's Sinister Minister and Barbaro. Barbaro with a quick burst of speed. Barbaro on the outside taking command. Sinister Minister drops back. Here comes Bluegrass Cat with a quick move. Top of the stretch in the Derby, and Barbaro draws clear. It's Barbaro in front. Showing up is into second position. Bluegrass Cat is third. And down the stretch they come in the Kentucky Derby. And Barbaro is running away. It's Edgar Prado aboard, and Barbaro is going to win this Derby by 6 lengths. Bluegrass Cat second. From far back, Steppenwolfer came on to be third. And from last, I believe it was Jazzle coming up to finish off the superfecta.
Earlier, great horse.
Did let this horse go the way he did right there. They're getting him back in. No harm, no foul. It doesn't look like.
Barbaro winds up getting hurt in the Preakness. When I say hurt, I mean career-ending injury, broken leg. Great job by the jockey to hold him up and not let him run anymore. This is American Pharaoh, the 2015 Triple Crown winner. To win the Triple Crown, you've got to win all 3 of the races in the Triple Crown: the Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont. American Pharaoh was an incredible athlete. I mean, these races weren't even close, but they were exciting because American Pharaoh is just an exciting horse. Maybe. And again, some of the traditions down the stretch they come with Dave, and you can see him running in the slop. You can see him running in the mud. You can see this as they turn the corner there. This is the military unit. This is Navy right here, and they're bringing in the flowers for the winter. This is Barbaro. He got his statue outside of the Churchill Downs in the Kentucky Derby Museum. Barbaro was an incredible horse, and just a terrible, terrible injury. Kind of a freak injury. Didn't get bumped, just took a bad step. You know, if you ever think about rolling your ankle, he rolled his ankle to the point that he broke his leg. You and I, we sit in a chair for a while. We get lay in bed. We get a wheelchair, whatever. We cast it up. Horses stand all the time, and it's just so detrimental. They can't lay down for very long time. So it's hard to get a horse once they've broken their leg to continue to run. It's painful, and it's truly life-threatening and life-ending most of the time. So anyway, let's see here. I'm going to quit sharing. There we go. So what I'd like to do is just like to encourage you. This year's Derby has been postponed until September because of the coronavirus, COVID-19, and gatherings of 10 or more, and there are going to be about 170,000 people at the Derby. So, not to mention all the other people around the track who are working, and the vendors and the cashiers and everybody else. So we just can't do it this year in May where it's supposed to be. But it is a tradition unlike any other. I know that's from the Masters. Sorry, Jim Nance. But this is a tradition in Kentucky. It's only been around for 146 years only. But it is a truly Kentucky tradition. So even though today is 2 days away from what should be Derby, we are not going to have a Kentucky Derby this year in the first weekend of May, the first Saturday in May. But now you got a little background on it. So maybe you've enjoyed this. Maybe you've learned something. Maybe it'll pique your interest. Maybe this fall when the Derby comes around in September. I just can't get my head around that right now. When the Derby comes around, you've got a little background. If not, you can always come back and visit. Hope you've enjoyed this. Hope I did it right. And go away Corona and go Derby.